eyes have been firmly fixed on Egypt for the past 3 weeks. On Thursday night, excitement spread among protesters with the news that Mubarak was about to appear on television. But his speech was not the resignation that hundreds of thousands of Egyptians have been calling for on the streets of Cairo. In his address, Mubarak pledged to make constitutional amendments and appoint a committee to oversee the shift to a new system. He also reiterated that he would not stand again as president in September. On Wednesday, the German foreign minister warned against taking things forward too fast.
Change necessarily requires stable structures, otherwise there's no chance of fair elections. The moderate opposition, moderate democratic forces otherwise won't stand a chance of promoting their agenda across the country.
The mass protests in the Egyptian capital took the Western world by surprise. For years, Hosni Mubarak was seen as its loyal ally. In the wake of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, this loyalty was a key factor in the fight against terrorism. And the fact that Egypt has a peace treaty with Israel has facilitated peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians. But the conviction grew that Mubarak had outstayed his welcome, with the US and Europe talking about the need for an orderly transition from his regime to a new democratic government. Speaking at the recent annual Munich Security Conference, German Chancellor Angela Merkel compared the Egyptian situation with communist East Germany's peaceful revolution in 1989. She remembers the same public desire for swift elections.
On the other hand, when we have processes of transformation such as those we're seeing in Egypt and Tunisia, we have to ensure that there's scope for new structures to actually develop. If the first priority is elections, then speaking from experience, I can only say new structures won't stand a chance.
But in Germany, many are concerned that a new government might include radical Islamists. The Green Party says these fears are unfounded.
As far as the Islamist movements are concerned, we have to recognize that Islamists are not automatically terrorists. This is misleading. The people protesting on the streets of Tunisia and Egypt have little to do with the fundamentalist leadership in Gaza and Iran. They belong to another generation, which is less ideological.
Modern Egypt is home to an internet generation that's networked with the whole world. Mubarak's regime repeatedly blocked internet access, but it failed to contain the unrest. The broader public wants to have its say, and existing interest groups are eager to play a role in building a new democracy, including trade unions.
There are trade unions in Egypt. There are youth associations, which have so far been subjected to authoritarian structures. Most of the trade unions have been nationalized, but independent unions do exist. There are unions which have repeatedly called strikes, for example. So there is indeed a civil society which could get organized were it to be given political freedom.
Most of the fears in the West revolve around the Muslim Brotherhood, an Islamist movement which does not rule out the imposition of Sharia law and which is Egypt's most powerful opposition group.
Were we to see a free democratic Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood will have to adjust or it will splinter. We've seen similar movements in Turkey, which had an Islamist party, which ultimately splintered. I believe it will be similar in Egypt. There'll be a traditionalist, fundamentalist faction and a reformist faction. This faction is already stressing that its role model is Turkey's AK party. They want to build a democratic Muslim union in Egypt.
It's unclear exactly how much backing the Muslim Brotherhood has among the Egyptian people, but experts estimate it has the support of 30% of the public. The international community, including Germany, has pledged to support moderate forces.
This would include helping build democratic parties, promoting human rights. We want to boost dialogue about the rule of law, modernize the justice system, if the Egyptians want our help. We could play an advisory role in drawing up a democratic constitution.
The demonstrators remained defiant even when Vice President Omar Suleiman warned on Wednesday that there could be a military coup if they didn't accept the regime's timetable for a transition to democratic rule. In Germany earlier this week, senior CDU politician Andreas Schockenhoff stressed that no new dawn was possible in Egypt under its longtime leader. Schockenhoff also spoke of the need to give protesters an opportunity for a peaceful, orderly transition to democracy. With events developing from minute to minute, the world's eyes remain firmly trained on Egypt.